Question number 8, Metiria Turei.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker, tēnā koutou i te whare. My question is to the Prime Minister and asks, tū ai aia I runga I te mana o ana korero katoa?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Is it possible that, contrary to what the Prime Minister said on Paul Henry this morning, New Zealanders have registered all of National's failed housing policies because they are the ones being outbid at auctions by speculators, living in cars and garages and waiting desperately for a state house?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I think what's true is that the government has had a very extensive response to housing issues in Auckland. There'll be more coming in that area. But Mr Speaker, that's a lot for anyone to comprehend at one time. People in this parliament might hear those things, but I doubt that the average New Zealander would know the full list of all the things we've done. The government's job is to continue to communicate that.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Well, isn't it true that despite this full list of his, not one single measure of his has reduced house prices for families or housed the more than 30,000 New Zealanders who are living today in severe housing deprivation? Every one of his half measures has failed.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, the member is quite incorrect if one looks at a whole bunch of things. For instance, over 600 people have left a Housing New Zealand home because of renewable tenancies, and that's allowed other New Zealanders to go into those homes. 134 tenants and their families move into social housing every single week. 17 new social houses are built a week. The government has announced that $41 million will be available for emergency support, and starting from initially September 1, but on an annual basis will be brought forward on 1 July. Simply not true that the government isn't addressing those issues for New Zealanders, along with the $10 billion of support it provides for low-income New Zealanders every year.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
What's the point of kicking out a family from a Housing New Zealand house and then making them rack up $100,000 of debts to wins for a motel?
The Right Honourable
Mr.
Prime
Speaker,
Minister.
People that leave under renewable tenancies do so because they're in a position to pay market rent, and actually I think that makes a lot of sense.
Order. I apologise.
See, that was not the issue raised in my question.
Order.
Kicking out a family out of a Housing New Zealand house. He's not dealing with the
question was heard. I heard it. Now we'll allow the Prime Minister a chance to answer it. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, so the reason that people leave a Housing New Zealand home on a renewable tenancy is because they're able to pay market-related rents, Mr Speaker, and that is a very sensible policy because A, they're in a better financial position to be able to enjoy a better financial position to be able to pay their private rent and allow a more needy family to move in. There is also reasons that people leave because they don't need the size of house, but I might add that this government has done what no other government has done, and that is extend income-related rents to social housing providers to allow even more New Zealanders to access a cheaper home.
Sir, point of order, sir. The Prime Minister still did not answer the question that I made.
Order. The Prime Minister certainly addressed the question. Clearly not to the member's satisfaction. The way to progress the matter is further supplementaries.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
What is the point of having beneficiaries racking up huge debts to wins for motels when they could be being housed in proper state homes and paying rent? And isn't that yet another obvious failure of his housing policy?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
It's one of the reasons why the government has allocated $41 million that people can access for emergency support. There's in fact now a grant, not a loan.
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question. Order. Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Isn't it true that that grant is only for 7 days in a motel and families are having to spend months and months racking up huge debts to wins because his government is failing to provide them with a decent house?
Order. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
No, that's not correct.
Question number 9, Grant Robertson.